Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price.
And I'm Eric.
And this is part 3 of our March Smashness reveals for 2020. We're going to be talking about the seeds 16 through 9. These are the beginning of the upper half teams that are great. They have a lot of potential and we think very highly of them, but they're not necessarily unbeatable, which is why they're not in the top 8.
Well, let's get started. Number 16, Shapeshifting Vigilantes. This has always been a great combination with the Gelfs.
Yep.
Bringing out any of the Vigilantes you want. It's very much similar to how superhero princesses can always bring out any of the princesses.
Right. This one was interesting and required a lot of discussion, and I mean a lot. I had them at 13, which isn't far from where they are. But some people felt very strongly about them, some people not as strongly. The truth is, in practice, you will feel the fact that they can only play so much power per turn. They can consistently play 4s, and they can get exactly the 4s they want, but it still is mostly going to cap out at 8. So if you're looking for that explosive turn, it's not going to come from them.
Right, they have a low ceiling and a high floor, so...
Yeah, and they are very strong as a counter because they can knock out whichever minion they want with Dusty Henry. But when you play them, you really feel that. But I mentioned in the video that there are some trick plays. I got away with them in the exhibition games. I don't think that's going to happen again. Not against the same opponent. So, but it's still fun. They're still a threat. They were really high. At one point, they were as high as I think 7. Yeah, they were originally seated at 7, and they kept slipping as we were trying to adjust the fact that there were discrepancies in the other numbers, but 16 is still a great placement. They're still a threat. I'm excited to see what they'll do.
Yep. Was this a pair last year?
No, but this was Vigilante Orcs.
Vigilante Orcs, right.
And they went all the way to the Final 4 because people were underestimating their defensive abilities.
Right. That was, I remember playing against them, and they were obnoxious to play against.
Yeah, they drove the Vigilantes into my number 10 favorite faction. Mm-hmm. Whether or not they're still in there, you'll have to find out in a couple of months.
Number 15, Zombies, Elder Things. This was Kelvern's lowest at 32, and it was originally seated at 13, and here it is at 15. So what made it slip a little bit from its original seating?
The need to move it up a little bit. Also the fact that some people were swearing by them as being extremely strong. They have a 3, a 4, and a 5, but in practice, they can be a little slow. If they don't have Tenacious Z, that will really slow them down. They won't necessarily use all of their actions every turn. The potential is still there to drop the Elder Thing, to drop Shogoth in the same turn. You still have to contend with the Madness, but they had a fairly average exhibition series, which means that you can play around them, and 13 to 15, that's not a whole lot, but it was more about getting other people up than moving them down.
Number 14, Trucker Killer Plants. We see that they were, again, 16, and they were brought down a little bit to 14. What caused them to sway to come closer to the top?
It was their exhibition series. They performed very well. And their consistency. They have great card draw, which I think people underestimate a lot. They, of course, have the infinite overgrowth play, which is fantastic, but they've won 2 games without it. So the point is that they can compete without their big play, unlike Giant Ants, where they're pretty much banking on it. They still have plenty of great synergy, and it's that consistency that I felt maybe people were missing. People maybe thought it's overgrowth or bust. That's not the case. Double Sleep Spores is great. Convoy is great. At one point I was trying to break all 3 bases on a turn with them, and overgrowth is only involved in 1 of them. I only got to settle for 2, but most people don't think that this is a 2-base combo, but they do have that potential because of overgrowth.
Number 13, Changerbot Werewolves. That sounds like a really great, powerful combination with the Great Spirit, which I think would be the dominant Titan in this grouping. Right. They were, ironically enough, the lowest seed for Savant. Right. Did he explain why he thought they were so weak?
Yeah, because there's abilities that you can double tap because of the Great Wolf Spirit, but many of them result in power losses. Like Solar Shout is -2, play an extra action. So he'd go to 0. And Huffy, you wouldn't want to double tap her talent. And that's a fair point. But I think that collectively, as a whole, they could become really strong. I'm obviously a big Werewolf fan. I like this team a lot. They kept sliding, but fortunately they had other people who were very much in favor of them. And you can't dispute the fact that they can get so much extra power without actually playing anything. They can play 7 actions, which is crazy. You know, do they even have 7 cards to play every turn? They don't, but bring on the madness, I guess.
Right.
And, you know, you still have Mergicon as a coaster, even though we're going to be playing digitally. You know, I suppose he still has value. There's one play that involves Mergicon, but yeah, the Great Wolf Spirit, he's the one who's going to be dominating. And if you can't take out the Titan, this faction is going to be really strong.
Number 12, Mega Trooper Ninjas. This sounds like a 2-player worst nightmare to me, because no matter what you do, it would be virtually impossible to break a base without these guys jumping on it at some point.
Right. Now, the oddity here is, of course, Chucky's Cookie rating them at 32. He and I have talked about this, and that is just wrong. No. You and I have been victims of this extensively. We don't get to play this combination.
Right. It's banned personally until this tournament came out from our group play.
Because the same person always picks them, and spoiler alert, he's playing them in the tournament most likely. There were just some hysterical stories about this combination because, as you said, it's impossible to keep them off the base. But what's really frustrating is that in one of the exhibition games, I'm playing Zombie Elder Things, and I'm losing, but this is going to bring me within 1 point, and it's not going to end the game. It's going to be, you know, I'm going to be right on the cusp of victory, and he'll only go to 14. I'm scoring a base by myself. I know he's going to jump on for 2 points. I can't stop that. But I've got 19 power. At least I'll win the base. I lost. He stole it.
He stole the base.
Yeah, 19 power solo, and I lost the base because that's what they can do. It's crazy.
Wow. Yeah, so not only is no base safe from them jumping on, but no base is safe from them taking it over after your play is done on your turn. Yeah. And then they start their turn, and it's fair game, whatever they want to do.
Yeah, basically, your turn is their turn. They can do more on your turns, and you have to account for that. I put down as much power as I could, but it wasn't enough, and that shows. I personally would want to see them higher. I put them 5, but that's because I played against them so much. But maybe I don't want them to go so high. Maybe I want someone else to eliminate them. There's not enough good things to say about this combination. And it's crazy to think that they are currently at 12 and that they still have room to improve there.
Number 11, Disco Dancing Dinosaurs. This is actually our very first number 1 pick, and it's by Mr. D-Rock. Why did he pick this as his number 1?
Well, one, I know that he's a big fan of dinosaurs and the combination. They also have absolutely crazy upside, which that's why I picked them. If you actually remember, the first video we ever did at Crank It Up was revealing the disco dancers.
Yeah.
And I was talking about disco dancing dinosaurs. This is well before, March Smashness was even a thing. I liked that combination then, and I love it now too. I ranked them 24 because the question is, how likely are they to actually pull that off against these teams? Very likely, actually. And so the 24 amount is wrong. I felt like I kept needing to push them up. It's crazy how quickly they can go from practically nothing to exploding and breaking a base. They don't always need power to do it because they can use Rampage, but there's so many quick ways of doing it. Like you can play a Diva on 1 turn and that's it. And then you'll play Disco Lou to go to 7. He'll give you an extra action. Play Augmentation that gets copied by Diva, that's another 8, that's 15. Then you reduce the breakpoint by his power, which is, 8. And that's 23. That's like most bases right there. And there's not a lot that you can do about it if you can't kill the Diva. They have the luxury of waiting till the right play actually happens. And they could also win by VP with Last Dance, which is very fun. And I've done that a number of times. So I kind of feel like I slighted them in the beginning, but now I'm happy with where they are, just outside the top 10.
Number 10, Astro Knights Cowboys. They look like they have a pretty decent spread. A lot of people, some were really good in 2 and 3s, and some were up in the 20s. Why is such? I mean, the total deviation is only 71, so it's not extremely high. But what were people's overall thoughts on this combination?
So the question is, does dueling backfire?
Yeah.
And it can. Kaiju Innsmouth last year, very happy to have played Cowboys. But at the same time, they don't need the duels. The duels are a means to an end. They should know going into the matchup whether or not the duel is going to be a success. They have so many extra power plays. They have free plays. The deputies can be up to 8 power. They have a lot of card draw. They have a lot of ways that can attack you. I played against them with itty critters, and we were trading solo bases left and right. There were 5 solo bases that game because both teams had explosive power. They can go toe-to-toe. They have a ton of specials. It's not nearly as insane as Mega Trooper Ninjas, but they can also compete on their turn, which is something that Mega Trooper Ninjas can't do, which is why I think overall they were higher. It's just a really scary matchup, not one that I'm looking forward to facing.
Number 9, Superhero Princesses. Like you, I think this is one of my favorite factions to play. You're always playing a large power swing. You always have control. You always feel like you're playing. You have control of what minions you have out. You can always figure out which ones you want. You basically feel like you're playing your entire deck with this game.
If I don't have numbers on this. If I had to guess, I would say that this is Crank It Up's second most commonly played combination, outside of Mega Trooper Ninjas being number 1.
Yeah.
Everything you said, 100%. They are so consistent. I am always comfortable. I always feel like I have an option. You can just bring out Eliza and bring a screeching halt. I think I counted 17 or 18 teams that Eliza just really messes with entirely. And that's why I knew that they had to be high up. There were some non-believers that take convincing, but in 2-player, they're fast because they go from 2 to 15 or something very quickly. They can get exactly the right minions. They can make you overspend. They have an underrated special that they could kick someone off the base at the last second. You played them more recently than I have, and you were in complete control with them.
Every single time.
Yeah. I'll never stop loving this combination. They were one of the first ones picked. This is one where my experience with them, the people who have played this team a lot swear by them. And, you know, that is not just the exhibition series, but you're going on like years of experience with them. So they just have to be there. They're too strong a counter. They can lose, absolutely. You can play around them. They have weaknesses like everything else. But I feel like they have to be in the top 10. So ultimately, I made the call that they had to go in. And, you know, not very high in the top 10. They're closing out this quarter, but they deserve to be there, in my opinion.
All right, well, that wraps up part 3 of our seeding. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you look forward to our 4th part where you see the top 8.
All right, let's shut it down.